Hey, John.
Eric,
How's it going?
it is going well tonight.
Tonight it is.
Running a little late tonight for me at least. They held me at work and forced me to go out to eat and have a
Rough.
have a have a nice dinner. I know.
Well, I snuck out a little early and came home to start packing. We're heading out for wedding number 2 this summer. Another niece getting married.
You have a fun time driving driving tomorrow.
Yeah. 12 hours in
Yeah.
the car. That's going to be fun.
I hope you queued up a whole bunch more podcasts that from your last road trip.
Yes. And we're going to see how dangerous or not dangerous driving with AirPods in is.
It's not dangerous at all. I do it every day. I don't understand. Yeah. Well. This may, I guess it may or may not be the last time I'm recording on this bad mic. You shamed me
Nice.
into buying a good microphone, although there were no prime mics available. So my quote unquote free shipping was like 14-day free shipping. I swear. I don't know. Anyway.
Ah,
We're, as what Jeff Bezos likes to say, consumers are divinely discontent, and I am.
yes.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I ordered it on Monday. Why is it not in my hands on Wednesday?
That's right.
This does not compute. Anyway,
Well, it'll be fun. Probably
Yep.
a little less time editing, maybe.
maybe we'll see.
All right. Well, you got a little follow-up from last week, or I do too. I don't know. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Oh, I just had one tiny little thing, which was that Corey Doctorow posted a follow-up to the e-fail that we talked about last week.
Yep.
It's not a MIME vulnerability, but the email client vulnerabilities for injecting HTML, which I thought was a great post. So I will
Right.
put that in the notes. But it's something that's worth going out and reading.
Cool. So the gist of it is, it's worse than you think, or it's not as bad as you think. I actually haven't read it.
No, it's actually exactly as bad as we talked about last week.
Oh,
but
okay.
trying to do bolt-on security to a protocol that was not designed to have that is very difficult. And
Got it.
I
Yeah.
think it just kind of reinforced a lot of the topics we discussed last week.
Yeah. All right. Well, my follow-up. We've talked now for I think the last several weeks about combining the mesh network with the little Echoes or Google Homes, the little voice assistant hockey puck cylinder things. And I think last week I made a comment that, should Eero or some of these others go try to link up with Comcast or somebody, and you had commented about they could just, tie
Integrate with Amazon.
Alexa right in.
Yeah.
Well, Comcast announced that they are now going to supply or provide for their customers, if they so choose, that exactly. Not that exactly, but a mesh network, not combining the Alexa
Oh, okay.
pucks, but they essentially white labeled another product that is competing with the Eero and the Google Home Wi-Fi, the Google Wi-Fi stuff, called Plume, and they're these little tiny pucks, although they're angled, hexagonal. What's the shape? Something in shape, and they just plug right into the wall, and you just kind of plug 4 or 5 of these into each one. They say 1 to each room, and it does that.
So more like the second generation Eeros.
Yeah, like the little beacons, the Eero
Yeah.
beacons, I think they're called. So it just kind of plugs into a plug in the hallway or in a bedroom or something. And then just because they announced that, and then the following day, Comcast, it was discovered they were leaking customer addresses and Wi-Fi passwords. So we can
Of
link to that.
course.
Right.
Ugh.
And you didn't really have to do much to discover those. You essentially just had to know a customer ID and a house number or apartment number. You didn't need to know the full address. And the website would spit out the full address, including the Wi-Fi username and password in plain text. So, good times.
Oof.
So if you had a neighbor you didn't like, you knew what their address was. You knew that they were using Xfinity. You could find out their username and password and then go browse the unmentionables under somebody else's watch. So,
Oof. I'm sorry, but did you say you had to know their account ID? Was that the other trick there?
Yeah, there was a customer ID.
Customer ID.
And right, if you had a customer ID, which you could find on a bill in the garbage can or whatever, it's not a private thing.
Right.
And if you know their house number or apartment number, all you needed was the number, like 1231. You didn't need the full address. So,
right.
anyways, yay Comcast.
There's a new leak every day. Leaking personal data kind of leads into the topic that I wanted to actually talk about tonight, at least a little bit.
All right.
Which is the fact that everywhere you go with your SIM card installed in your mobile phone, your mobile carrier is tracking you, right? I mean, heck, you know this because they have to know what cell phone you're attached to. They'd have to know for 911 purposes. And, frankly, the location services is awesome in many, many, many ways. And even to the point of, you and I have used it all the time where, if we're going to go to the movies or something like that, share location, track. And I share with the family and, we can kind of see where we are if we're kind of converging on a place or something like that. But not, I don't think it would be any surprise to anybody that the carriers can have that data, but the fact that they are retaining that data and then also selling that data to third parties who are turning around and selling it or providing services for that data, both for for law enforcement, for sure. That's kind of one of the ways that it kind of came out at first, but then also for any purpose, so long as you're willing to pay, is, I think, would be unexpected for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, I'm sure when you sign up, there's probably some clause in the hundreds of pages that you ignore when you say, yes, I want a cell phone, that says we can use your location data or whatever else for anything we want to do for whatever.
Right.
Because the one that freaked me out in here, maybe you're getting to that one next, is the website that basically offered punch in anybody's cell phone number and they'll tell you where they're at right now.
Right, exactly. Well, that was in the quote unquote leak. That was kind of my tie into the leak of. So I don't think most people would expect that it's being retained or resold, although maybe they shouldn't be, or we shouldn't be that surprised. But then when the company that is reselling the data or purchasing and reselling the data doesn't have good security practices, and now either intentionally by security omission or just gets hacked and exposes an interface where you can go look and search for anybody's current location, so long as you know their phone number, is bad with a capital B. With a capital B.
Absolutely unexpected. I know I've had friends, and they've talked about their kids who, refuse to join the Find My Friends, or is it Live 360? I think is another one that does kind of the family group location sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Find My Friends on iOS, or the Live 360 location sharing. And they refuse to join because they don't want mom and dad to know where they're at, especially college kids, as going to the wedding this weekend. We've, have now the nieces and nephews are now getting into the mid-20s, and they would not want to share their location while they were in college with mom and dad anymore. And, mom and dad would call me and say, how do we find them? Well, there's this website where you can find anybody.
No. Yeah.
Of course, I didn't tell them that, but
yeah,
it's not that hard. It's not that hard to find.
Yeah, and I mean one of the points that this Brian Krebs on Security wrote an article this week about this, and it's called his take on it was don't share the where, but one of his comments in there was how much. Sorry, this feels kind of like extortion, but I mean, how much would you pay to opt out? Don't do that. I mean, that shouldn't be like a cost. That's what I mean by thinking that it's extortion. But I'm sure that they are getting less money from the companies to which they're reselling my data than I would pay to say, oh, hell no, you don't.
Yeah.
And, but it's purely a matter of ease. And it would be, quote unquote, harder to do the right thing, or just impossible, because if you made it opt in, who would do that? You would probably have to incent people with more money than the location data would be worth. I mean, this is, for things like law enforcement, it's, I think there's a very clear boundary between if you have a search warrant to receive such data, that is one thing where we have all these, social and legal hurdles in the way of, what's proper. Okay, fine. I would totally expect that to happen with a valid search warrant, with a valid whatever the equivalent for
right.
Can you wiretap a location trace? But that's one thing. But the fact that anyone could go and say, even if the security is closed for the exposure that made it public, the fact that if you're a subscriber to this type of data, you can find anybody's location at any point in time is in and of itself horrible.
So how would this work with GDPR, Europe's privacy data protection laws that have gone into effect? Those apply to European citizens, essentially, even if they're in the U.S. So let's say I know we work with a number of citizens of other countries,
yes.
EU citizens. If I punch in one of their phone numbers into one of these places and they find out about it or they want to know, is that a violation of the GDPR stuff that goes into effect this Friday?
Interesting. Well, not even so much. I can easily imagine where if you punch in their home cell number, +444 or whatever the country code is, I have to imagine that would be relatively easy for them to filter out. Not that they necessarily would, because if they were going to do the right thing, that this is clearly not the right thing.
I mean, if they have a U.S. cell phone while
Right.
they're
That was
here,
actually right where that was
yeah,
exactly where I was going was,
yeah.
I don't think the GDPR distinguishes between what you're using. It is identifiable as a European citizen. You should be able to tell me what data you have on me, and I should be able to ask you to remove it.
Yeah,
That will be an interesting legal challenge.
Yeah.
That will be a very interesting legal challenge.
I think in the next few weeks, I'm going to hit up a number of the services I use and ask for my data, see what they have about me.
Or can we'll have to maybe ask one of our friends who is not a U.S. citizen to see if they can ask for deletion of something like this. That would be interesting.
I can run to the website, add a Krebs article, look up their phone number, and see what I get, take a screenshot of it and send it to them and say, hey,
yeah,
what are you doing over at the grocery store?
Oh, gosh.
Or wherever else they may be.
So bad. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my topic for today. Oh, there was one other thing in this topic I was going to mention, although, because as I was reading it, I was like, oh, they didn't, because Krebs brought in the fact that there appeared to be a number of files that had been uploaded to VirusTotal from the domain of one of these resellers.
Right.
And as I was reading it, at least I was like, oh, that would be a good place to refer back to that. He did actually have a response at the end of his article that the company, claimed it wasn't actually their fault and there's some mitigating things, but just in association or referring back to, remember things like VirusTotal, if you upload a file to them for them to scan with all the different engines, that file is available for anyone who subscribes to the VirusTotal threat feed to download. And they had examples of password files. Like there was a file up there that had 33,000 or 38,000 names and password hashes of some sort. Now the company said that they believe that file came up and was associated with their domain because some of their employees were in the file, had their data exposed. And it wasn't.
But it wasn't them that uploaded it.
At least that company, they claimed that it wasn't them that had uploaded it, and that they were better at security than that. To which my overall thing is, not if you're willing to go to this place in the first place.
Yeah. I'm really biting my tongue on going on another password rant.
Yeah. Well, and that, the other thing is that the companies don't acknowledge how much they do there. So it'll be interesting if, I wonder if there will come a time where having an option for a more privacy-focused carrier, will that even be possible? I mean, the way consolidation's going and the way is presuming that T-Mobile is able to buy Sprint and they merge, and the expected cost associated with deploying 5G, if that all comes to bear, I mean, who's going to compete? There's no ability to stand up something new.
Yeah.
But maybe they will get disrupted somehow with I don't know, something a little more trustworthy.
Yeah, one would hope. All right, well, my topic this week, I am still again stuck on the whole Google duplex thing in my head, and kind of the fiasco that broke out, last week, 2 weeks ago.
Tempest in a teapot.
Yeah, so anyways, so I got to thinking about, your voice assistants and what are some of the security concerns you might have around voice assistants? Kind of going beyond just simply that ethical issue that seems to have been caught everybody's attention, which I still,
So to be clear, this is the Google duplex with them calling the Google AI calling restaurants and hair salons and other places and either finding out what their hours are or trying to make reservations on behalf of
right.
a user, something along those lines, and kind of in the kind of on the maybe somewhat creepy side of it is sounding like a human, including pauses and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and even those, I don't know. I go back and think about how you interact with anything. Really, you interact. Are you nice to your dog? Do you ask your dog to please come over? Do you, there's all these different things, and how really are robots or AI? Why would I interact with them differently than I do other things just because it's not organic? It's not a biological entity. It's wires and bits and lights, and I don't know. It's one of those things I'm struggling to figure out. Why is that so off-putting to people to force the anyways?
Well, I mean, one of the things I'm not enraged, but I do think that one of the differences is, if I call up AT&T or some
a bank or whatever,
some company, and I get to a phone tree, I know that's the game I'm playing,
But does everybody know that's the game they're playing? Well, even those type of things now are getting so good. They don't ask, before it was always obvious, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. It's, hey, welcome, tell me what you'd like me to do.
Right.
And you speak to it.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the point I was trying to get at, though, was that there's a difference between me initiating an interaction and then having like a robotic gatekeeper that's kind of helping guide me without, to get me to the right person or to the right way to solve my problem without interacting with the person, as opposed to a robot turning around and asking a human to do something. So pick up a phone and then answer questions on behalf of the robot, whether those are things like, what are your hours, or things like, hey, can you make an appointment for me? I think there's at least a little distinction between, the use of robotic assistance to help facilitate something that a human initiated, and then the humans doing things in response to a robot initiated item. And so, think of Google when Google's searching and Google's going and indexing a site. I mean, it takes zero resources. And of course, these days, everybody optimizes for Google in the first place. But, if Google starts indexing humans, calling businesses and things like that, there's actually a more physical cost than, 5-10K over the wire for, pulling down a site or an updates to a page and indexing it. Right. There's more of a material cost. I agree in general that it's not I don't think it's something to get enraged about yet, but I do think that there is that little distinction between robots kind of standing up at the ask of a human versus humans standing up at the ask of a robot.
So how is that different than what Amazon might do with a Mechanical Turk and having very low paid people, who do it for 10 cents for every phone call they make or whatever it is, and calling and asking the store? The interaction is exactly the same, probably. Or let me throw out the probably. I would bet on the side of that interaction between the human and the human on the other side would be identical to the one from the robot or the AI and the human on the other end.
The AI would actually probably be better. There'd be less chance of data entry error. probably.
Yeah, I just think we just need to accept. I mean, if you're a sci-fi fan, right?
Which I
Every
am.
movie that has robots and whatnot in it, you see the interactions. Especially like the new Star Wars, or even go back a bit for, Data and Star Trek. You're going through all the Star Trek Next Generation.
I am.
People appreciate it's just accepted that you talk to robots or AI or whatever naturally like you would anything else, and they talk to you and you just interact with them and we love that interaction between Poe Dameron and BB-8, or R2D2 and Luke Skywalker, right?
Right.
You don't think about it.
I don't remember from the vantage point of today, looking back at yesterday. I don't remember when phone trees first came in, if there was wild outrage of, replacing phone operators or what. To be honest, it's been so long that it seemed, by the benefit of hindsight, that just kind of happened very quickly. But we have progressed very far from here are the 9 options, or 0 for operator,
right,
to, the tell me about your call. It's
well, even back to when I was a little kid on the Mac, and what was it, the Apple Liza? What was it, that first? It was kind of the psychology where it would regurgitate back. How are you feeling today? I feel fine. What makes you feel? Why do you feel fine?
Right.
Some of those pattern matching. It just feels natural. Anyways, sorry, I totally sidetracked too far down there, which I didn't mean to go, because I actually want to talk about issues around your little hockey pucks, and I actually muted both mine. I found the little Echo Dot has a very nice button right at the top. The Google hockey puck has a very annoying, hard to reach, hard to switch little slider down around towards the bottom of this rounded curved thing. So I found the mute on it, but clearly one wants it to be easy for me to mute it and the other doesn't. Anyways, so I was trying to think. So some of the things that I came up with, kind of security issues, or if you have these things in your house, what should you be worried about? What should you pay attention to? All these have, for example, apps that you set them up with. And then, like with the Echo, the Amazon cylinders, hockey pucks, you can add, what do they call them?
Skills.
Skills, thank you. Skills. And those skills then have basically access to other websites, or, you can kind of get this cascading effect of that skill may do something very tiny, but it may proliferate out. So, keeping an eye on what kind of skills you enable, it feels like that might be a security product in the future that somebody might want to pull up. When the Android apps, before the Google Play App Store, Google Play Store, a lot of the apps were coming from hundreds of different app stores, and you really didn't know how to judge whether or not they were trustworthy or not. And I think, and so there's a lot of apps that came out, security apps, that would tell you, oh, this one is doing this one has, not just virus protection, but they did app analysis and told you whether or not. I feel like that maybe there's something in the skills that will, since there's no user interface really, other than, maybe the setup
Voice.
app,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of, hey, Alexa, tell me about are there any skills that you have enabled that I should be worried about? Can I ask that kind of question?
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense to me. I mean, kind of like a skill reputation or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things, obviously, that is a potential security risk for the cylinders is, if you are browsing somewhere in your house on a website and that has audio data embedded in it that's meant to trigger it. There was the meme a while back, or not a meme. There was the thing a while back where a TV commercial said, "Alexa, buy toilet paper," and or whatever it was.
I thought wasn't it a Burger King commercial?
Yes, there was a Burger King commercial too.
But yeah,
something like that. And then, so that's kind of the obvious one. But then I got to thinking about, if you get into like machine learning and adversarial machine learning, is there a way to trigger these devices with audio signals that a human can't hear?
Yes.
And
yes.
Just some Googling around, I found a place that, yes, you can do that.
Yes.
So we'll include a link to that one. So what kind of things could that do and kick off and start doing? Fortunately, for the most part, they all respond. It's an interactive point. So if there's some malicious audio, but if it's timed right, it could probably carry on a conversation while you're not home or, before you can catch whatever it's doing. I don't know what kind of things you could do with that.
Can you do a... I'm maybe getting hung up a little bit still on the Adobe Photoshop for audio that Peter mentioned a couple of weeks ago. But, can you imagine one of those Darth Vader voice things where, you talk into it in your voice, but it turns around and says in, somebody else's voice what you're saying. And especially I know that obviously Siri is not user aware in any way, shape, or form. Neither, to the best of my knowledge, is the Echo, but the Google Home is, right? Google Home recognizes the difference between you and your kids, right? And you can ask it to read your text messages, but that's different from somebody else's, and learns, add something to your schedule versus, right? I don't have the Google Home, but.
And I think the Echoes you can also. I'm pretty sure you can do that with the Echo as well. Or
maybe you have to.
It's a beta mode or something you can turn on.
Go in and look.
But
at that.
That's the next thing is, can my kids now start impersonating me or can someone impersonate me and
if your voice really is your passport?
Well, exactly. Can my kids ask to buy something? Because if I ask, I don't need a PIN, but if they ask, they need a PIN, or they need authorization from Dad, or, Dad can ask the Google Home to play a movie on Netflix, but the kids wants to watch a movie that is not appropriate for their age, but if they can figure out how to ask in Dad's voice, then it will just play. There's things like that, I think, that are coming.
Yeah.
Anyways. So
yeah, I think I did see something else this week about how voice is a very quote unquote obvious next interface, and I don't think we've even begun to explore the ways in which it can be abused.
Yeah, you look at. I guess one thing is not clear to me, and maybe because it begins life in an analog form, is if it is easy to use Face ID or Touch ID or these other biometrics, why does it seem to be so hard to use a voice as a biometric? Versus what about that? And frankly, it's because I just don't understand waveform in audio, at all, I guess, but it just seems like that if Google can start telling the difference between when I say it and when somebody else says it, and like you mentioned, Adobe can start converting your voice, your words into the voice of someone else, obviously someone can tell the difference between voices. So when does audio actually become a viable second, third, fourth factor? If you're, please help me get rid of passwords.
When
can it just recognize me?
Don't go back to the password rant, man. No. I know.
Anyways.
I know.
All right. So, one final question on
on
the audio stuff. Laurel or Hardy?
It was totally Laurel. Yeah.
I love the fact that you just skipped over this to the second word I said there.
Oh, look at you. Oh gosh. See, thank you.
Because you went right exactly where I went. I'm like, I don't know how you hear what was it, Yanni,
Laurel
the other one?
Hardy. Damn it, you totally got me. Well played, sir.
That's right.
It was totally
context.
Laurel. I listened to the ATP this week, and of course, John Syracuse is awesome. We're all listening to different things.
That's right.
But I think the recognition that not everybody's listening to the same speakers, and speakers are so awful these days, especially for the lower bass frequencies, that
right.
In order to make it sound at all interesting to our ears, or quote unquote normal to our ears, they have to do processing. Okay, I'm gonna guess that people that heard Yanni have
problems.
have other problems with whatever audio device they are emitting sound from, and ingesting that sound into their ear canals.
Yeah.
But I you know me, it's never a wishy-washy opinion, I guess.
Well, my something fun. So to wrap up, my something fun. The Bay Area Maker Faire in San Francisco was this past week, and Adam Savage of Mythbuster fame.
Yeah.
His Twitter handle is "Don't Try This." Love it. He gave and I'll throw the YouTube link in there. He gave I think it's about 17 minutes long, just kind of, I think he called it a Sunday sermon, basically on making and being open and sharing and what's important about it. But it was a great, if you liked Mythbusters at all and you haven't seen him outside of Mythbusters, click through to that. And he talks about, open source and the concept of sharing. And one of his great stories that he tells in there is when he got his first job at Industrial Light and Magic. He was trying to build something and he'd come up with a new way to do it. It was for the movie Space Cowboys. The old geezers who were space guys, like Cocoon, we talked about a while back. Anyways, that was the movie Space Cowboys. It all comes back. There's just a big circle.
Everything. It's all one. It's all one.
He was making these radio antenna dishes for the props for the movie, and he had figured out a way to do it that was really cool. And one of I don't remember his name. You have to watch the video and listen to the name, but a guy who did a lot of the big effects on Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back came and watched what he was doing and just thought that was cool. And then everybody in the office was coming over and looking, how did you do that? How did you do that? And so it was a great message about how don't keep your stuff secret. Don't, if you figure out how to do something, share it. Keeping it secret. So anyways, it was a great, I think, like I said, 17 minutes long, but, just kind of a nice Sunday sermon from Mr. Mythbuster.
That's fantastic. Did you find the link that's just that talk? I know you were looking for it.
So
very cool.
did. So
all right,
just that one.
Well, after we hang up here, I will click the link. I will watch it. I have not watched it yet.
There you go.
That'll be great. Okay, well, my something fun this week is much less cool as normal, but at least I'm not trying to sell knives this week or something. But I saw the Oatmeal, Matthew Inman,
Yeah.
I follow him on Twitter, and just, cartoons. If you don't know them, if you're easily offended, then maybe don't follow this link because his cartoons tend to be very crude often. But I saw a link to an older cartoon of his about making things, and since we kind of decided to put this podcast out there, I happened to see that again this week and was like, oh, that's gonna be my something fun. The oatmeal in general, but then this particular link in specific was pretty funny, I thought.
Yes, and he does the worked on the Exploding Kittens card game, all that, and Bears versus Babies, which we have those two, and they have a new one. He's got a new game out. You've got crabs. So there, you didn't sell knives. I'm selling card games.
I actually haven't played any of those, so if they're really good, let me play with if they're kid appropriate. Lend me one, and I'll play it, and maybe buy it or something. I do tend to buy a lot of games.
There is, we got the family friendly version of Exploding Kittens. There is a less family friendly version if you wanted it, but yeah, I can give you that. It's fun.
Fun. All right. Well, thanks, Eric. Nice talking to you tonight, and drive safe tomorrow.
All right, John. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye.